Do you pair your socks?
Yeah, I like to have
like to
two together.
Yeah.
Like, because, you know, just trying to like finding one loose sock is going to be frustrating because I don't want just one.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I do. I know Marie Kondo doesn't like it, but I do bundle, like I do the wrap bundle thing.
That's what I do.
Together.
What does she do?
Oh, she was just saying you don't want to strain the sock, you know, because it's, I mean, you know,
well, you know what?
Not good for the sock.
I'm strained and no one's looking out for me like that.
Right?
Where's my Marie Kondo?
I mean,
fuck the sock. Fuck the sock. I'm under stress.
Yeah. God, I feel so fucking late right now because of fucking daylight savings.
I know. You came over and you were like, sorry, I'm late. I'm like, it's actually quite early. It's just dark.
It's literally not even 7. It feels like almost
late.
9.
Yeah,
like
it feels late.
You know, it's like...
Yeah, I don't like it.
It's
bullshit.
It's that time of year, man. We're gonna be a little salad bananas.
This morning, I watched a horror movie. Yes, I do that in the morning.
Just a little coffee. And
just a little, you know, sometimes because of the daylight savings, I was up like, you know, a good 2 hours earlier than I needed to be.
Yeah.
Because
there's nothing more horrifying than that.
There's nothing more horrifying than that. So I watched a horror movie to temper that feeling. But I watched this like Romanian French co-production thing called Them. And it wasn't bad, but it was like, it was kind of bad. I mean, it started good and it kind of ended good, but it was just like, I had a reason for bringing this up, but now I don't remember. I know, just that,
like you're tapped on horror movies.
Oh yeah, thank you. And yeah, it was kind of like, it actually got me sucked in for the first couple minutes. So I was like, oh shit, like I'm not dead inside. And then it lost me. Mm-hmm. So yes, I am.
Anyway, hey Victoria.
Oh hey Chelsea.
You know, like what I could really use right now?
What could you really use right now?
Like, in all honesty, for real, a Breath of Fresh movie.
You don't say.
I just freaking did.
That's a movie I like to see.
So this is a Breath of Fresh movie. This is a podcast where I, Victoria Harley,
and me, Chelsea Pope,
we watch a movie that neither one of us has ever seen before, and then we talk about it.
Yeah.
This week's episode is about The Nowhere Inn, directed by Bill Bentz, and written by Annie Clark, also known as St. Vincent, and Carrie Brownstein.
Woo!
Yeah, it's a lot of their brain, so it's where we don't always call out the screenwriter, but
it's so much more.
They're also in it, you know. I mean, but you know. Oh, I need to pull up an email.
Yes, we got correspondence to deal with before we dive into to movie stuff.
Yeah, we actually received this quite a while ago and then recorded it on an episode that we never released. Whoops.
Oopsies.
Because it was a Zoom episode. It just, you know, whatever. Maybe one day we'll release it. I don't know. The point is, this is from a fella named Mike. And he was writing to us regarding Patton. He listened to our Patton episode and he decided to open up a fresh email composition and he composed. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks, Mike.
All right, so this is from Mike. I picked this podcast as the first from your list to listen to since it was a movie I was very familiar with. Classic.
Dope.
I was a 14-year-old army brat living in Germany when it was released, so I immediately went to see it with my friends. 4 years later, I was training in Fort Hood, Texas to be a tanker. I admit that the film had a significant impact on my choice of careers as an 18-year-old with no college plans. I even had the soundtrack LP and would play it on occasion in my barracks room. Da-da-da-da-da-da. I know this makes me sound a bit off, but I wanted you to understand my connection to the film when I say your review is spot on. I love most anything George C. Scott did during his career, but this is my favorite. Also take a look at They Might Be Giants with Joanne Woodward. I was led to your podcast after following Chelsea on Twitter. Well done, you. Who I find hilarious. I agree. Aww. So thanks to you both for entertaining me during these days of COVID. Take care, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. That's dope.
Yeah, I hope you're still listening.
Yeah, well, because, also too, like,
sorry, we didn't. The thing is, me and Chelsea love emails.
Yes.
we never give you guys prompts, you know.
Yeah,
maybe that's the problem.
Maybe we should get I don't know.
We love emails, so keep them coming.
This was like really delightful, and you know, we love to hear from people, and this one in particular, it's like it doesn't sound silly at all that a movie influenced your career trajectory. I mean, I certainly was heavily influenced to make the choices in my life and to pursue the dreams that I have because of all the media I took in. I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was a kid because I loved Indiana Jones.
I mean, I think a lot of us considered that career path.
Yeah,
right?
And then my mom said, that's not what archaeologists do. That's an actor. That's so corny, but that really did happen. I mean, it was that corny.
But it's sweet, and we all have that like revelation at some point. I'm trying to think about like what I mean. I definitely went through an Egyptology phase, if that helps.
Yeah.
You know, where you're like, ooh,
because it looks cool, right?
It looks so fucking cool, and solving puzzles and learning about ancient societies.
Yeah. You want to be a symbologist, like in the Da Vinci Code made up career.
Oh man, yeah. There's a lot. I mean, it's like all those people who wanted to become like forensic pathologists after you know, like all these CSI shows started coming out.
It's just super relatable. Like,
I mean, we're all, you know. This is why people were all up in arms like when the pictures came out, because it gave people this picture of like a glamorous life that like a bunch of, you couldn't keep the kids down on the farm anymore, you know, because they were all running off in search of something else. And although I doubt they ever found exactly what like inspired it, you know, at least those people went out and tried something different and like got shook out of their like complacency. But I can see how like, the moral outrage of like we're losing our children to just, you know, to just silliness, what, you know, to some like
sex, drugs, and and Hollywood
frivolity, you know.
Frivolity.
Who's gonna dig up the potatoes next year?
Yeah,
you know, we took out money for these. Yeah, I mean, it's serious. But yeah, anyway, this is a strange roundabout way of getting to today's movie, The Know We're In.
Yes,
which is also a song.
It's a good song too. I was listening to it on the way here.
I like it.
It's definitely
a good one to listen to in the car.
Yeah, it's from St. Vincent's. It's from for this film, but also from her. It's on her album "Daddy's Home."
It is on there.
I believe so.
Oh, okay.
If I'm not crazy, unless I'm crazy, because
I believe you.
I think I had heard it on there. I'm a really big St. Vincent fan. I was initially not as high on this new album as I'd wanted to be, but.
Getting into it.
I'm getting more into it. It's been more of a slow burn, trickle in type of deal for me. Not as immediate as like maybe like Strange Mercy or her self-titled. But it's, you know, I've always appreciated that she is unapologetically exploring her creative interests.
Totally.
You know, and that is something I appreciated about this film. I will say that.
Yeah, I mean, she is, I think the more she's become like prominent and successful in music, she's getting to branch out into other things. I mean,
yes.
She's like, I don't want to call what she does art rock because I don't want to diminish it in any way, but she's really known for, you know, interesting music, like interesting compositions, but she really took hold of her image in interesting directions, and like,
absolutely.
You know, she kind of had like done a bit of like a concept of, you know, she had like silver hair and, you know, was thinking of herself as like sort of a cult leader, and so the album cover it's very symmetrical and it's got some symbology going. I don't know. She does interesting shit. She just, you know,
absolutely.
She's interested in art of all kinds as a, you know, a person.
I mean, she has just like an encyclopedic knowledge of music too. Like she is, I don't want to say jack of all trades, because that implies only sort of like a medium level expertise, but she's a very gifted musician and artist, and
just like highly intelligent. You know, if you ever read interviews with her, it's pretty clear that she chooses her words carefully. I don't think she suffers fools very easily. You know, I think she's very polite. You know, you never catch her being anything other than having good manners. You know, I mean, which is just good business, right? You know,
right.
But yeah, I think there's some people are very, very critical of her, and even before all the bullshit cancel culture, whatever stuff.
The interview there was a journalist who did an interview with her and went maybe a little too far into the discourse about her father and the jail time. You know, and it's one of those things where on one hand I can kind of see both sides of it, you know, and basically what happened is apparently St. Vincent was not pleased and went after the fact to put the kibosh in the article.
Right.
Which,
okay. I remember that now. Yes.
You know, that's taking money out of this person, this journalist,
pocket,
you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so then that person spoke out and, you know, then people piled on more or less about the pretension or aloofness that she has perhaps previously exuded in other interview settings or what have you. You know, it's one of those things where it's like I can understand what sparked this. I'm also a really big fan and apologist for her, so like I'm not, you know.
I just also think like asking people to kill a story, it's like that happens a lot. You know what I mean? And it's not to like say like, oh, that's, you know, but I'm like, of all the things, that's really pretty tame. Yeah. You know, she clearly is somebody who like, you know, has a strong control over her own image. And
I think this film really touches on that. And I mean, I feel like, you know, I have an even greater appreciation for her having watched this film and with the context of this sort of controversy that I saw happen briefly on social media. It's like I feel like she's quite self-aware to a fault, you know. It's a very like relatable issue, I think, to have that anxiety of you know. I found myself wanting to connect even more with her struggle of like interiority and how you present yourself to other people.
I mean, there's it has this movie has like so many different themes like in that direction about like authenticity and identity and fame and like what people project onto your fame. And then early on, I wrote it down, like how you seem versus how you think you seem, and a gulf. There can be a gulf between those two things that's catastrophically wide. Yeah. And that her main goal in music is wanting to create something that sounds as close to what other people are hearing. So like they posit this kind of theme really early on, you know, and this idea about presentation versus like, is what I'm hearing what everyone else is hearing? Yeah. Which is kind of what we're always a little bit nervous about, you know. And it's cool that they're exploring that both like explicitly in the movie, but also implicitly just, you know, in that it's so entrenched in like art and music and like performance and the road and all that. And I don't know anything about being a touring musician. I also think it's incredibly, like, I don't want to say brave, but to try to trod into the area where Spinal Tap established such a strong, how do you make like rock stars seem less cool? Yeah. You know? Yeah. You know, all the things that go wrong. There are little, you know, nods. Like there's a moment she gets locked out of her own show. Yeah. The guards don't know who she is and don't believe her. And she has to break into her own show. You know, it's like, I was like, oh yeah. I mean, I did read this in a review, so I'm kind of cribbing somebody else's point of view here. But, you know, they pointed out that like the fact that this movie is funny is really its saving grace. Mm-hmm. Like it's consistently funny. If it didn't have that, I think it would be tedious. I can definitely understand that. I thought that the humor, especially in the first half of the film, was really strong. I really liked these sort of almost like, I don't want to say it's like quite Curb Your Enthusiasm-esque, but like there are definitely these sort of like idiosyncrasies in conversation that are occurring, and feeling the awkwardness or the like. I you know, I felt like St. Vincent or, you know, Annie Clark more so in that first half is really very easy to relate to in these moments where she's kind of being pulled in different directions, and especially, you know, the like the scene with the interviewer who's so just much so wrapped up in this breakup, which was a really, really great scene. And I liked that voice memo is so awkward. And then it's genuinely like, it feels very sad. And there's like that moment of, you know,
I guess, betrayal and loneliness as she overhears that same woman, talking shit to the cousin that she got in the show about how she was aloof and inaccessible when really it was
the other way around. No, it's so funny that scene you're talking about is so pivotal because it's not as if that's the moment that she just, I guess before I should back up a little bit and just say this movie, it has elements of mockumentary style, or documentary style,
or the different style. There's a lot of different styles.
There's so many different styles happening. And actually to the point that kind of became a problem for me at a certain point, toward the end, where it's is this now just the film?
I would say I was kind of annoyed at the beginning because, I really liked that first desert scene. She's on that freeway and then the driver's like, I don't know who you are, blah, blah, blah. And I love, he's singing a song. He's like, did you say motherfucker?
Yeah, it's a good grounded scene.
It's a very good grounded scene. And then suddenly he gets on and disappears. And then that scene, we never see. It seemed like it was maybe some sort of dream sequence, but we see no transition. So then I'm like, oh, is it going to cut back to that same moment later in some capacity? And then it goes to her with a number of other people around her as she's sitting down to be interrogated about what happened, as though there was some tragedy that occurred.
And now we're in almost a true crime doc because she's doing this direct to camera, very confessional, it looks very professional doc kind of style.
And then it goes, let's go back. And then we see, and periodically there are these sort of almost home movie-esque, very, very small,
frame
shots of her talking with Carrie. And, and
that's just their friendship.
Yeah. It's just,
it's the most intimate thing.
You're watching it from a faraway lens.
Yeah. I mean, it goes into these different modes. It's not actually a mockumentary.
I mean, I think you can say what it is, though.
It is a movie. It's just that it hovers in that region for a bit. But I think it's actually wrong to tell people it's a mockumentary because when you actually finish the film and see the whole frame...
It's really not a mockumentary
It's not. It's a movie.
No, most of the film is shot like a narrative film. That's not...
And so it has those elements, but it's mixed media. And I love the number of interesting visual components. We got nice grains. I wrote these down. Lots of fades and lens flares. There's distortion. We get different kinds of filmed video or filmed screens and lots of cut scenes and projections. And there are these transitions that bring us from I don't think I don't think the movie needed them. I think it would have been fine just cut to the next scene, but they add these little interesting visual pastiches of all kinds of stuff. And those elements I think are what, when people talk about this movie and compare it to the work of Nicholas Roeg, who's a sort of thriller psychological filmmaker, I kind of feel that's part of what they're talking about. But, this whole film involves, we're going to shoot this documentary about me and I'm going to my best friend do it. And then somehow we're presented very early on that it all went to hell. And so the movie's about discovering how it went to hell. Just to go back to the thing that prompted all this, that interview scene and then followed by Annie getting locked out. So she comes into the theater and she happens to be a few rows behind these two women, who again, this reporter who had been a total shit to her before is now just actively talking about, like you said, aloof and distant and totally pretentious. And for whatever reason, that is the thing that finally convinces Annie to become St. Vincent, even though Carrie has already suggested it.
Well, up to that point, and I would say the closest thing you could call, well, I wouldn't say the closest. I mean, there is a plot. It just goes off the plot towards the second half. And it's basically that St. Vincent's on tour and her bestie's on the tour with her, Carrie Brownstein. She wants Carrie to shoot a documentary of her on tour. And Carrie's getting frustrated because Annie Clark is not interesting enough. She's playing Scrabble. She's on her phone playing video games. She's just vegging. She's talking about how she likes to eat. She likes to chop radishes and
like to eat things that taste like dirt.
She likes to taste the earth and dirt. And then, so you see her increasingly feel anxious that she's being perceived and that she has to perform, instead of like these cameras are on her, so she's
Which she was trying very hard to be authentic. She didn't want to perform. She really wanted it to be this intimate thing.
Right. But then Carrie herself is sitting, she's bored, and she's like, you know, why don't you do be a little more interesting, or like write a song for the road, do this, do that. And there's these prods.
Yeah.
You know?
There is like a certain amount of empathy I can feel for Carrie, in that she's like this documentarian who is so eager. I mean, like that very first day of shooting, like her body language is like, I'm having such a great time.
Yeah.
And then it quickly becomes, what is our story? You're going to find what the story is, and she just gets to a place where she doesn't trust it. And then she also has this additional personal pressure of like, her father's sick, and so she's also
wants to do something for her father to be proud of before.
That whole thing where like, I've done other things, you know, and they're like, oh, but you're a filmmaker now, like a big time director, like, so she has like all these interesting pressures. But I think the transformation of like, there's something that made me very angry, and I think these characters are unlikable. Like, this isn't supposed to make you feel more endeared, you know, or anything. I feel angry at Carrie's character for asking Annie to be something she isn't. Yeah. And she's kind of resistant to it, or she's trying, and it's super awkward, and she's doing, I mean, it's comically hilarious, like kind of hilarious how bad she's at it. Yeah. But then she overhears those women talking about her. And I swear, this is my favorite. I don't know if it's a scene, but shot or whatever, is like the moment right after that where she's sitting alone in her dressing room and her face is like snake face.
The light changes. Yeah. And it very much reminds me of like the Kill Bill bathroom stall scene. And she's watching, the bride's watching the assistant laughing on the phone. And then the lights, it's like the shot turns red. It's like,
like, no, that moment where she like, she runs her fingers through her hair, and the lights, there's this huge dramatic change, and there's a great red distorted,
it's very Suspiria.
Oh, it was so good. And I was like, and I'll be honest, that shot alone, I was so prepped for so much more darkness than we got. If I'm just being honest,
they could have. I mean, you know, it's like a number of things that are. I mean, it's a little easy. It's easy to pick apart things because at the end of the day, it's just not a complete story. Yeah, it's not. That's the truth of it.
That's
in my opinion.
No, I would agree. I mean,
it's an awesome sort of like, I look at it like, I thought about it earlier today. It kind of reminds me of like if I was watching kind of like Michael Jackson's Thriller. It's a great sort of music video movie, but it's not. I wouldn't. Calling it like a movie, it feels, you know, without skipping too far. Well, I mean, you know, we've got a lot of things we can talk about, but like right away, I want to just get out of the way. The ending left you and myself both frustrated.
I mean, I was more okay with it when I didn't see that cutscene. At the very end, which I'm like, so wait, is that the real ending then? And then it's like, like I just, again,
like how meta are they? Why don't they do another cutscene where you see the real director showing a camera on Carrie and then on
right.
How
that's what I mean about the envelope thing. Yeah, it just. I watched this movie twice, partially because I paid to watch it, and I had a 48-hour rental, so I'm like, well, I'm going to watch this shit twice.
For sure.
And also because the first time I just wanted to receive it, and the second time I was like, okay, let's take some notes. And it's like, I can follow it to a point, and then toward the end, it just keeps going. It keeps zooming out. It keeps zooming out. It keeps zooming out. And again, we get to like the end becomes the beginning, and we're back in the desert, and we're in that limousine, and they connect the open door and the person, and it's Carrie now who's like running out to escape into the desert. And I thought at first, I'm like, okay, so Carrie has now disappeared into the celluloid, like she's disappeared into the film, you know, like that. Yeah. And that's again very like Nick Rogue. Yeah, like I was willing to accept that. I was willing to just be like, oh, there's a metaphysical, like she loses her mind and somehow is subsumed into this work. Like I was ready to accept that. Like then I watched. I mean, I was sitting there. I watched with my boyfriend, and we were talking, and then he walked out of the room, and then that cutscene came on, and then it adds another fucking envelope where it's zoomed out yet again, and it's like, oh,
she was in on it.
So Carrie was in on everything. And so it kind of felt like we don't know how to end this documentary is the problem in the story.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, let's just be clever and not know how to end a movie. It's like, God damn it.
It's almost like it just didn't want, like they didn't want to do the obvious thing, which is just let her finish the Nowhere In, like the song, and then we see this masterful sort of music video work or whatever.
Yeah.
And or, you know, their friendship, like some sort of find the button or the resolution to where all of this chaos is going. It kind of, it's like, I feel like it very much was like imagine watching Aronofsky's Black Swan, but just up to the point where we see Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis duke it out, and then all of a sudden Mila Kunis as knocks on the door and is like, "Hey, you were incredible." But then we never find out it's because she actually stabbed herself at the end of the day. Like, you know,
Right,
spoiler
right.
alert on Black Swan, by the way. Sorry,
Yeah,
oops. But like, it felt like very much like, oh, this is somebody who's being a perfectionist, is spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
And then we don't see the ultimate sort of like, how does this actually affect Annie by the, like, what is the transformation that happened at the end of this film?
Yeah, it's missing a scene.
It's not,
or it's missing an act.
That's
or
what it
something.
is.
It's
Is like
yeah.
And I feel like too, it almost kind of suffers because there is this push and pull between Annie's story and Carrie's, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's not quite
always
faithful to the. It's too, the switch keeps flipping kind of back and forth.
I agree. Yeah,
in a disjointed way.
I wasn't sure. Yeah, who we were supposed to be like living with. Who's our protagonist?
And I'm sure you know, maybe they would argue, oh well, it's supposed to be both, or it is supposed to change. And my thinking is more like, well, that reminds me of like Mulholland Drive, but
Sure.
I think,
And this has been compared to Lynch, but I think that's a little generous.
Yeah, no, I think very much so. But there are parallels, I think, with this in Mulholland.
Definitely.
There's the drive, there's the driver, you know, going off course, or you know, Mulholland Drive. You have these two women, and it ultimately is like, was it all in this one person's, more like it gets eventually reframed, you know, midway through the story as potentially having all just occurred in this one woman's mind, or it's like, you know, I don't want to oversimplify Mulholland Drive because there's so much more to it than that. But this I think is a story that has these multiple characters that sort of converge and diverge. Their stories don't quite. There's the only resolution is. The closest thing you could call a resolution is that cut scene where it's like, oh no, it turns out they were in it the whole time. But it's like, I couldn't put stock in their friendship. Yeah. You know,
I mean, it definitely, there's like a lot of questions left. And,
I loved so many of the ideas and so many of the things that come up in the same vein.
There were
as like,
so many wonderful moments.
Yeah.
I mean, wonderful is such an empty word. There were a lot of moments that felt really true.
Yes.
And
a lot of just artistically like compelling moments. I loved it, like when she's going full Nowhere In, and and at that point I'm thinking, oh, this is supposed to be about Annie Clark's descent.
Yeah.
This isn't Carrie's.
Right.
Even though we keep seeing all these scenes with Carrie.
Right.
We're spiraling now in the Nowhere In.
That's what I thought
song.
Too.
So the curtains, she keeps trying to turn herself around.
I love that.
So much great imagery there.
Yeah.
I love that. We could have gone off the deep end with that, and then maybe we veer back out and we find out that, you know, she had a break of some kind, and then I don't know.
And like it's like Carrie's the only one who seems to have a problem with her transition, because everybody else around her just sort of accepts and goes with it, you know, like that masseuse who is like, oh, Miss Vincent has fallen asleep.
So is this Carrie snap? Was this ultimately just about Carrie's madness?
And that's the question that Annie/St. Vincent asks her, is like, were you so frustrated looking to find me? Like, were you really looking for me, or is it you that you can't find? Which I do think
it's compelling.
Which is like kind of the ultimate fuck you from somebody who has fame. And I mean this in a good way, like not like I mean, it's kind of like, quit projecting your bullshit onto me. And there is like a part of me that empathizes with Annie, and like that you can be exquisitely talented. You can work hard, and you still have to answer for it in this stupid fucking way.
Yeah, that's I find that infuriating. You know, it's
Yeah.
like I'm biased. I'm a huge fan of
I am
hers, and at the
too.
same time, it's like, yeah, you know, you look at someone like that who has worked very hard and
Works very hard. Yeah.
is very gifted and you know, has a wealth of history of credit and
Well, and she learned that discipline like young. I mean, she was so her aunt and uncle had like a jazz duo, and she was their like roadie when she was 16, and learned really early on like how unglamorous, you know, touring is and everything, and completely dispelled that. And they gave her a lot of encouragement in sort of music and whatnot. So I know they were really important in her development. And she did go to Berklee for a few years, like Berklee School of Music in Boston, which is very renowned, but dropped out because most people do.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, you know, that heavy theory stuff, she said, like, didn't even make sense to her till way later in life. But she's, you know, she has this like technical ability, but she also writes very interesting music that's, you know, it's got really jarring melodies and unexpected. Like, I think a person who has experienced or suffers from anxiety, I think, can understand her music.
Yes, very much.
Like it is a soundtrack of anxiety, and I mean that in the best possible way.
Yeah, I think there's different like layers to it. There's different phases of it. There's different like emotional states that you can tap into from album to album, and
yeah, totally. No, and I mean, and you know, this isn't to ignore Carrie Brownstein, who is, you know, a very accomplished musician in her own right.
And she's very, I always enjoy watching Carrie because she's just very, she has
so
a very
real.
charismatic and down to earth energy.
Yeah.
And like, I adore Portlandia. I've watched every episode multiple times.
Same.
Like,
yeah. I mean, for anyone who's not aware, Carrie Brownstein is a musician, an actress, a writer, a director, comedian.
Sleater-Kinney.
Yep. She was in Sleater-Kinney. She was also in Excuse 17, which is like a foundational band in the Riot Girl movement. You know, she's a Pacific Northwestern, which is why Portlandia is, you know, she knows. And you know, she's been in a number of music projects, but she began appearing in comedy sketches with Fred Armisen, a group called Thunder Ant, and that's what became Portlandia. Of course, right, if you hang out with Fred, you can probably get a meeting with Lauren, right?
Yeah.
So which Portlandia, I mean, it's won several Emmys, and I think it was nominated for a Peabody, which is pretty impressive.
I'm not surprised,
for a
but
sketch
that is
show,
awesome.
you know?
I'm not surprised either.
Just saying. But yeah, and also I learned today, in doing a little quick research, she graduated from Evergreen State College in sociolinguistics. Which is like, oh, interesting.
She's smart. She would get smart.
And our director today started as an editor. Well, I don't know where he started, but he was an editor and director on Portlandia. Also The Kroll Show, At Home with Amy Sedaris, Man Seeking Woman, Son of Zorn, Lady Dynamite, and The Detroiters.
He's done a lot of comedy. Especially Lady Dynamite makes a lot of sense too, because that is a very offbeat, very weird show sometimes.
Yeah, he's worked with some really interesting, funny people, and this is his feature debut. Yeah. So it sounds like everybody really trusted each other. He said like it was a great experience directing because the script came to him pretty much fully formed. So, you know, Annie Clark and Carrie Brownstein wrote this together, and you know, it's said in the movie, it's a little bit of a message, as we used to shout at the screen, like message. But you know, there's a sort of throwaway, well, it's not throwaway, but there's a line about, I just want to make things with my friends. Yeah. And I literally remember hearing Annie Clark say that, like in her master class. Yeah. So it's, you know, it's
a very relatable thing. It's like at the end of the day, there's all this posturing and having to be a certain way and trying to appease different people. And I mean, on a personal level, like that really hit home for me this week. In my life,
I wondered.
You know, I was
watching. I'm like,
I watched this on a personal level. That it was. I found that line. You know that you know, after you spend so much time trying to shape yourself, trying to earn approval, trying to make your way through, trying to earn the accolades, the respect, the clout, all that crap, and then I think this movie you know, with the scenes with like the interviewer, for instance, it can never be enough sometimes. So people will always have these reservations about you, or just, it's so easy to drag you for whatever fucking thing, well, you know,
and to still to so quickly forget how that person, like, you ask them a favor, you know, like that person that you're like, yeah, they're not so great, but you still need things from them.
Oh, and the irony of it too, and this is like, I also found this very true to life and was funny, is like after her concert, and she asked for Carrie to present her, you know, she says, to present me, to present St. Vincent. And then she goes, you know, and then she goes over and the interviewer and the cousin, they want to talk to her.
To have you here.
You know, and then they're like, we'd love to, can we have a picture? And she goes, actually, no. And just walks away. And then the funny part,
Carrie comes to apologize.
No, and then the funny thing is that is what makes them go, oh, she's just so unapologetic. She's so real.
A woman
just
speaking your truth.
Speaking your truth. Like the way public opinion is so fucking fickle and opposite thinking in that way. Yeah. You know, because St. Vincent was so obviously,
she was acting like such an ass,
bitchy.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I find that so interesting. I see that so much on social media as well, that we give so much clemency to people that we see that from or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's a very weird opposite relationship between the...
Yeah. I mean, that moment to me definitely felt like the projection.
It's like,
you know, moment. Like it's completely up to the receiver.
It's so true. And also too, just that it's funny that when you try to go out of your way to be polite, people can perceive that as inauthentic, because in a way that is a performance.
It's true.
Whereas if you're really fucking mean to someone, sometimes they'll prefer that, because they're, wow, you're being real.
That's so interesting.
It's so interesting.
You'll never be accused of being fake if you're a bitch.
Like, that's the thing. You know, it reminds me of the Trump discourse. It's like, well, he tells it like it is, like, you know, that kind of shit.
I mean, it's interesting how, like, right, you're called impenetrable and aloof, but then when you act like it,
but then when you actually act like an asshole, then people are like, well, at least she's real. Like, she's really real.
What did you think of Dakota Fanning in this?
Dakota Fanning? Well, I didn't see her, but I did see Dakota Johnson.
Oh God damn it.
Dakota Johnson is
oh wow,
I loved her energy in this.
That was embarrassing.
My boyfriend liked it too. Yeah. No, that's not embarrassing. It's funny. You know, there's a handful of Dakotas.
There's like so many Dakotas, everybody.
So many Dakotas.
No, I'll leave that in. Don't worry.
I think it's great.
I love that. I can be wrong.
It's authenticity. Okay. This is what this movie's all about.
Did I write it? Maybe I wrote down. I read it off the page.
Fanning.
I did. I wrote down
funny.
Fanning. I wrote down Fanning.
Funny. I love that.
Okay.
I love that. It's not Dakota Fanning, it's Dakota Johnson.
But yeah, that scene, it was so funny how postured it felt. And I know that was the point, you know, but even the way they're on the bed and they're in like almost matching positions, almost matching outfits. Yes. And then of course, right, that gets carried on further when the sort of St. Vincent wig item, everybody's wearing the St. Vincent wigs. Yeah. So everyone has her hair. Like, I don't know. This movie, again, I watched it on my boyfriend, who mostly like, he was like, oh, it made me like St. Vincent more. Yeah. Like, it was interesting to think that this is a problem she has with her own fame, and interesting to see her attempt to talk or work through that, you know, in this thing. And, you know, Carrie Brownstein also as a performer also like understands like perception and how people are received. And I don't know, I thought it was really interesting how like through Carrie we get to like cringe, you know, especially in that sex scene where she's just like, and I don't want to do this, like, you know, and it's like there's something so you're relieved.
You know, I know a sex coordinator, you know, just
the
to deal with with the intimacy coordinator, with the, you know, just
like, well, I consent. It's fine. Obviously she can.
Dakota just, I consent. Like, just it's so
no, and but I just request that you don't show any of my pubic area. And then I just like St. Vincent or Annie's just like, and I have no restrictions. Like, she's just so like, once she decides to go in on that character, like that rock star character persona, it is comical, you know. I
love you, baby, but I'm married to the road.
Exactly. Carrie gets what she wants, but it clearly is the worst thing ever. And there are some like scenes that are fucking painful to watch, like where it's like, I mean, I think if I could relate and project to this experience, which I can't because I don't have any famous people in my friend group, like, but the experience of maybe having a close friend, like a female friend who overnight kind of turns into a bitch and you know, like you know, suddenly treats you like crap, and you're not sure why. Like, yeah, I can relate to that, you know, like being singled out and mean girled or whatever. Like, I mean, when she was, you know, they go to that dinner together or that lunch or whatever, and she's like, we can just talk like friends, you know, like we don't have to pretend like we're in the movie, and she just ices her out. Yeah. You know, my mother is wonderful, you know, and just back to the menu. Hiring that assistant and like being like, oh, so you can talk to someone about your dad. You know, it's just fucking cold. Like there's some really nasty shit. And again, it's like behavior that I'm sure A-listers do or have done. And I'm fascinated by Hollywood memoirs and stuff. And sometimes you read about people who growing up in this like insulated bubble of fame and wealth, and even not being around other children much, and just like having a completely different understanding of how the world is and works, you know. And when I worked on a project that was for Annie Clark, and as much as she seems cool and all that, I mean, she definitely has like people around her, you know, like many people do, you know, it's no disrespect, but I started to wonder about what is life like when you can kind of eliminate all the things you don't want to have to deal with, or you have people to deal with, or, you know, like, I'm sure it's kind of nice, but also like, what is that hermetically sealed life like? Yeah. You know, and like, can you live in the world or not? And I mean, this movie is kind of attempting to grapple with that. So I don't think it's anything that's resolved, and I'm not pretending to like know anything more about it. I just,
well, you couldn't if you tried, because this movie does not resolve that for us. It does not provide an answer.
That's true,
because that seems like something that is still an open-ended question for Annie Clark, St. Vincent herself.
Sometimes when I watch a movie, the mark of it is like the next morning, you know, when you're like waking up and, you know, you're lying next to your person and you start, you know, you maybe talk about the movie from the night before, because it's like you've had time to kind of like, you slept on it and you've marinated with it, and, you know, you just still think. But this one, it didn't stick. It just didn't stick to me. Like I went back and I appreciated it a lot more watching it a second time. I was like, oh no, this really is good. It really is good. Like high marks, like seriously. But something was missing. And I think it's what you were describing earlier. You know, this like, where's this turn? Where's this resolution? And we get none. Yeah. And again, I would have been fine if it had been a little bit more mystical. I wanted it to go. I don't know.
It did have this untapped potential.
A little bit.
That, you know, and saying all this, it's like, well, I would still be very down to see another, another foray from both of these women together. Like if they collaborated and they did, well, maybe even if they did a sequel, I would happily watch a sequel to this and to try and get some resolution, if nothing else. But also, you know, I'm always on board to see where the creative journey goes with St. Vincent, even if I'm not always on board.
No, totally. I'm with you. I think like the movie, it deserves a look.
It definitely deserves a look. I think there's a number of really great scenes. There's a lot of very funny moments. There
are some really funny lines.
There's some genuinely like disturbing moments here and there. You know, it's very aesthetic. If you look at it like one long music video, that might be a more satisfactory watch.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, like in this, like again, like with I think Michael Jackson's Thriller in the same way, where you're right. It's not a full movie.
No, you're right. That is now that I think about it more, that comparison's really apt, because it's like, right, because the title is the song is the film is the idea, and anybody who's done anything creative, you know, alone or with people, like there's moments for you to identify with. Like there's a lot of like they really, it is like somebody who engages in anything creative, I think will see themselves in this is what I'm getting at, I think.
Yeah.
Tassel glasses.
Oh man, those were so dope. I mean, there's so many wonderful, like,
She's some good looks.
She always looks fucking awesome.
I know. It's like
You know,
a little frustrating.
I liked her cowboy look too. I loved her little cowboy family.
That whole scene
fucking rocked.
when she has the pitchfork and she's just shoveling a little bit of hay, you know, and her like foot is pivoting.
I could have watched a whole movie that leaned into just that absurd type of comedy of just if there had been a bunch of these manufactured type fake scenes, and Carrie's like, no, not this, and then Annie's like, what about this thing? You know, like I could have watched a whole movie that's all of this, like,
that's so funny. Like what you're describing is so close to the plot, if you can say there is one, of the Monkees movie that was made in 1968, Head, because that is kind of like what that movie is. It's like they're being shuffled from one kind of commercial posture to another, and it's very like plotless and wandering and very 60s, but a fucking awesome movie, and people should check it out. But yeah, I mean, the fact that like I think this film gets compared to things, you know, I don't want to say it doesn't deserve it. I think it's just, it's living in a category of very interesting neighborhood. This is a movie that's living in a very interesting neighborhood, and I would love to see more things like this. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's more pros than cons for me. Is why I gave it 3 stars on the Letterboxd, you know. But
and you went to the show.
Oh,
right?
yeah. And I went to,
there's a lot of concert footage in this film.
I didn't realize this until I was looking at other Letterboxd reviews, and someone pointed out that the concert footage is from the October 29th, 2018 show. And I was like, oh, fuck. Was that the one I went? And I scrolled back way back through my Instagram. And you know, I have a pinned story on my Instagram because I was just so fucking jazzed to be at that.
I remember when you went to that.
It was a bomb-ass concert.
You left like a sketch meeting early to go, but we weren't on the team yet. Like, and so everyone was like, no, go.
No, I didn't give a fuck. No. I was gonna go to that St. Vincent concert. And I got to be pretty close.
Yeah, you were close.
Yeah.
And that was honestly, I mean, of all the tours, that's probably the one I would have loved to have seen. Like,
she was so great to watch. I mean,
that's prime.
All the videography too. I mean, again, St. Vincent is just somebody who has just, you can tell that she's having so much fun with just the, like, she's thinking in terms of like, what is the concert going experience going to be like? I want to have these cool visuals, and we're going to wear, there's going to be a couple choreographed elements. There's going to be, I'm going to talk to the audience, and I'm going to, you know, like, there were just so many great moments. And like, I think she's someone who really has like just such a love for being a rock star, in the best way possible.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. No, she's not half-assing anything.
No, it's not
at all.
It was a great energy in the audience. You know, I mean, like, it was dope.
I'm a little envious there that you were there.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just like, just deep breath. I mean, she has collaborated with David Byrne of the Talking Heads before, and I've heard some people like say it very disparagingly, like, oh, he got a hold of her.
Yeah, I had some guy that I served at Fred 62 one late
You
night.
were the one who told me that fucking
exactly.
story.
And he was just like, yeah, he ruined her, and I was like, no, her self-titled. I love all of her albums, you know, but her self-titled is honestly possibly my favorite.
When you listen to her music, it is very reminiscent of the Talking Heads and New Wave and Television and all these other great groups. Like, she is right in that.
I think you have a fundamental misunderstanding of St. Vincent if you don't have some level of appreciation for David Byrne. I think you don't even have to like him.
No,
but if you don't have some appreciation for him in the Talking Heads, you're missing.
If you like St. Vincent, you like the Talking Heads. You just don't know it. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't know it yet, honestly, you will one day. One day you'll understand why you like this.
It's just some people like to.
But
dick swinging.
But I think that the footage I saw reminded me quite a bit of the Talking Heads concert footage from Stop Making Sense. Like, the notion of even arranging a band on a line instead of in a diamond, you know? And I mean, that sounds very basic, but it is like, no. We're really going to question every concept here. We're going to question every little arrangement, and we're going to have fun.
She changed guitars every song. Like, that's just, it was so cool. Like, then there was that, you know, in the movie, you get to see the beginning sequence of Huey Newton, and you know, it's just her standing. She doesn't have a guitar, and then it's another guy circling around her, and then he like slowly sort of like, it has like an ominous vibe to it.
Yeah, it was creepy.
And he like slowly embraces her and puts the guitar around her.
man.
And oh man, it's just fun.
Cool. Yeah, no,
it's fun.
it's
She
good.
plays, when she does pills, and this wasn't in the movie, but like, it's whenever it's like pills to wake, pills to sleep, every time that happens, she's not even singing, she just does like like dances around in a circle, like very robotically, and then she's having so much fun with it. Like, I can't shit on her, man. She's too good at what she does.
I know. It's like, and also like, are we really gonna shit on like a woman who managed to be a rock star in an era where no one cares about rock stars anymore? You know what I mean? Like this isn't some, rock star in an 80s, 70s. No, like seriously, she's a guitarist. She's technically masterful. She's disciplined. She writes interesting fucking music. And, she's also, just in case you didn't know, she's a woman. Like
she's just incredibly like beautiful too. I'm sorry,
she is beautiful.
I don't not to objectify or whatever, but no, that's part of it. But part of it.
It's the vessel though, and like the medium is the message, and there's something though. She plays with her image, like she's not. They all do. I mean, like people.
That's a true mastery, is having that self awareness
to know that like I am something that can be molded, and I can do different things and become different people if I want to.
Again, a lot of really great ideas. It's lots
of good ideas.
More good than bad.
Dakota fanning.
What's that? No Dakota. I'm sorry for Dakota Fanning fan. Like Dakota fansing.
Can't believe I wrote that on my paper.
That's so funny. No, but Dakota Johnson, I liked her energy in this movie because she's funny. It is very like. Huh? But she is just very offbeat and just, and she's a very grounded energy in a way too.
I also funny. Her whole she's kind of locked in the 50 Shades of Grey thing. Right? Like that was her, right?
Yeah. Okay. She's in that. I just think I would say it was like funny because it was I felt there was something a little bit almost random about it, actually.
I mean, it is random in that like they do say like we met, like we made a deep connection like through our agent. Like they have the same agency, it's like it becomes really obvious that like, oh, this like I wasn't even gay.
There's a PR element to it,
like that this is going to be beneficial to our careers. But then when Annie's too honest about it later,
break up in 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. That's so fucked up, Annie. And then she runs out, she's like, St. Vincent. She's just trying to keep that fucking thing going.
It's great.
Oh, it's so funny.
None of this goes in the movie. It's a beautiful bag of bones, but sometimes it's got like too many femurs and not enough kneecaps and it's got too many of certain bones and not enough. Like you could not put.
There's no spine.
Yeah, it doesn't have a spine, but the individual bones are all beautiful.
Yeah, it makes up a nice pile.
Makes a nice little pile of bones.
Nice little pile to pick through. That rendition of Year of the Tiger was kind of fun.
That was really fun. Again, a whole movie that could have been a bunch of little weird music videos where they're attempting to get to Annie's real Annie, and she just keeps manufacturing all of these sort of stories because she doesn't want to end up where they do end up, which is in front of the correctional facility,
right?
Which was another scene that I felt like there could have been more there.
Yeah, I mean, it was
weird because then Carrie does that weird maniacal laugh. So I'm like, wait, is this Annie's story again?
I know, and it was like right, and it's like Carrie like laughing because she finally cracked her open or not. She
was messy. This was messy.
I know. That's what I mean. It's like I didn't know I could empathize with either. It could be about both, but I agree there's a switchiness to it that was like, and again the envelope thing, where it's like, okay, oh, this beautiful scene that I thought was maybe her interior is actually, it kind of is, but we're gonna pull out and show you that it's a music video. And then even the thing in the desert, I think I found that really frustrating when Carrie runs into the desert and Annie's watching her run, and then the shot on Annie pulls back far enough to reveal that it's a backdrop. So it's like it just keeps
what
pulling, is it's like, which is it? Like I just got so like my head, I'm like, okay, so
I also
okay, wait. I'm like, I need a map. I need to draw a map
of what, like, I will also say there were moments that one last criticism, but then I want to make sure I
yeah.
say something positive again, because I ultimately did appreciate
We
watching
do like
this.
it. We do.
I did ultimately more thumbs up than thumbs down, but my last criticism is just some of the attempts at seriousness were, it was like with Carrie, like, was she trying to run funny? It reminded me of the Scary Movie runaway like thing that Anna Faris does when she gets mad at her boyfriend and she runs and flails her arms. And I'm like, wait, are we supposed to laugh at this, or is this supposed to be scary, eerie, like weird?
Like, is it like
there were several moments I think with Carrie that, you know, I think this is just me, maybe just, is it me projecting too much Portlandia fanhood onto her, where I'm not letting myself get with her on the serious stuff? Or is it just that there's two, like there was a moment too when St. Vincent, she's talking about, oh, I'm only going to sell these wigs, and she slams her hand on the table, and then you see a little bit of a smile, like you see a little bit of like a, I know I'm being silly right now. Like,
I mean
there's a couple moments that were a little,
which I mean, is that like a deliberate like thing, or was it just genuinely maybe she couldn't get through a take?
It's great in sketch comedy. That tone is perfect in an episode of Portlandia, because it is that sort of like when there were a few scenes where it's like Carrie, she's freaking out on the bus, or she's freaking out people, she's freaking out in the studio when her dad's like, I'm not really your dad.
I know,
stuff,
what
which
was
is
that?
That was a really weird, scary moment. But then when she runs out of the studio, then it was also another like, is that the Scary Movie run? Like the arms just flailing.
Yeah, it was a little, there was some strange running. Right. She bursts out, but then in the next instant, it's like she's just sitting by herself. And so it's like, okay, escalation. And then immediately just no. And then like, I'm leaving. And then no, I'm not leaving. Like she writes that dramatic note on the mirror.
But then she didn't actually leave.
There
were a number of instances where some of the scenes just didn't weave in with the others.
It didn't quite pay off, or it's like, I get that you wanted to have this note written in the mirror, and it could have been much more powerful, except that like it doesn't escalate. It kind of just resets.
It just resets, and the same, like the uncle visits, but we never see anything happen with that. And then it just immediately cuts to her walking through a room of TVs. There was that was incongruous.
I was definitely losing the thread. And you know, I saw some red carpet interviews with Annie and the director and Carrie, and you know, they were even struggling to like describe the movie. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm not going to sit here and say like, well, that's probably a bad sign, but it was interesting that like even the people who made this don't really know what to tell you. So it's not just us.
That's true.
All right. Well done.
All right, there you go.
Thanks for listening to A Breath of Fresh Movie. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at FreshMoviePod, or you can send us an email at abreathoffreshmovie@gmail.com.